As the newest map, Pearl is still being figured out, and is only just now showing up in the pro scene. Today we're going to take a look at how Ghost Gaming plays the map, as they just won the Nerd Street Gamers Summer Championships with a 100% win rate on Pearl. Aproto, Ghost controller player, uses solo Astra on Pearl. Many teams are running double controller on this map, but solo Astra is also emerging as a common pick. Let's take an in-depth look at how Aproto plays Astra. One quick note before we get started, this is professional play, so if you're trying to take lessons for ranks from this video, it may look difficult because there's a large degree of coordination that you won't get in rank. While this might be difficult to reproduce, this is what good team play looks like, and it's something that everyone should be striving for. The defensive side is a huge part of Ghost's success on this map, with a 69% win rate on their 4 plays. Aproto plays a very straightforward role on their defensive setup. He's played as a hard anchor, usually for A site. Aproto usually doesn't rotate until after the spike gets tapped on the other side of the map, or the bomb gets dropped. When Aproto is anchoring A, he has 2 main setups. The first is his default setup. The default setup uses a standard double star on the main choke. The first star is poked for a smoke, and then the second star, which is further in, is held for when the other team is trying to push through. When the other team comes out of the smoke, the star is popped for a grav well, which will split up the push and pull attackers out of the smoke. Aproto also almost always pre-places a star in art, which will be used for a smoke. Aproto usually has 2 teammates playing art, who will poke towards mid, and then if they need, they can fall off and set up a crossfire between connector and link with the art smoke triggered. Aproto usually keeps the last star in his pocket and will use it for either a re-smoke of A main, a smoke for double doors, or to smoke the bomb in a B retake. The second variation of Aproto's setup is with a star mid-site right here instead of at main. This variation works almost exactly the same, but it doesn't have the pre-placed star for a grav well. Instead, the mid-site smoke is popped to create cover which Aproto can duck in and out of, taking duels off of his team. This star works almost exactly like the mid-site C smoke, which Aproto also uses, and the goal of this smoke is for Aproto to stay alive and keep control of backside, allowing his team to flood in and prevent the push as they come out. Aproto usually peeks off of either a relay bolt, a haunt, or other util from his team, and won't peek out of the smoke before then. Ghost almost always plays with the trademark on B link, and they use it for info of a push. If the trademark is broken, Aproto will usually smoke outside double doors, and 2 teammates will clear link from connector and B site. Finally, Aproto occasionally played as a B anchor. When he plays on B, he pre-places a star here, and it's used to recall, comboed with an aggressive relay bolt in order to contest B main at the start of the round. The recall gives Neon a window that she could cross the top mid, hiding behind the boxers and such, and fight anyone that's stunned up by the relay bolt. Even when anchoring B, Aproto still places the same art star to allow his teammates a place to fall back to. When Aproto is anchoring B, Koala Noob still uses the trademark on either B main or on link, giving extra information, and usually the rest of the team is going to lean towards the A side of the map while Aproto just plays for information and calling for rotates. One cute play that Aproto makes once is recalling this star outside of art, and this is to allow Koala to cross to the side to try to get an off-angle pick attempt with the tour de force. I'd mostly avoid plays like this if you aren't doing it in a coordinated team or stack though. Aproto generally only gets aggressive on rounds when he is already at a gun disadvantage. He'll double up and push A main, for example, looking to play off a pop flash and sheriffs. Risks are more worth taking when you're already at a disadvantage like this. One final note, Aproto often pops his A main smoke when he sees pressure on B main. This might seem a little counterintuitive, but what he's trying to do is cut off any potential lurker, which often is a chamber. Chambers in particular want to contact into these long angles with the headhunter or operator, so the smoke prevents any map control gain through A main as the team is going B. So with all that said, there's got to be counterplay to having solo controller Astra. So what we're going to do next is look at 2 or 3 rounds in which Ghost was unsuccessful. First up, we have a thrifty win from TSM Academy against Ghost. TSM Academy quickly takes mid control with a smoke in link and then a trailblazer through art, and it forces out the art smoke very early from Aproto. You can see that TSM Academy also places a deeper smoke which cuts off the crossfire and makes it so that they only have to worry about link. You can see that at this time, Aproto is still anchoring for A main and has popped one of his smokes in the main choke. That means that he's already used 2 of his 4 stars at 120 in the round. Aproto then uses his 3rd star outside of double doors in order for his team to try to re-clear link. Ghost decides to use the Nightfall and push off of it, but a nice relay bolt out of TSM Academy, stuns up Nismo, forcing him into the fight and gets a free kill. Both Aproto and Brock are forced into connector and they continue trying to fight, and they even hit a 4-man seize. Unfortunately, the fast lane is then thrown from TSM Academy, blocking them off, and both kills are picked up for free. During this fight, Reba was also able to lurk up A main, getting control and get out onto site. What can we learn from this round? First off, mid control is able to burn a lot of stars quickly out of Astra. Aproto used a star on Art to deny the initial push, use a star on main to deny a lurk out while Art is also being pressured, and then also use the third star for a smoke on double doors, worrying about the pivot towards B link. At the end of the day though, this round mostly came down to this fight for Art. Astra was low on utility and only had the ability to use one more smoke on A main. As a result, Ghost decided to be proactive, using the Nightfall to fight against Art. However, a single relay bolt out of Sim was able to stun up Nismo and Aproto, force Nismo into the fight while stunned, and end up 3-for-0ing on a Thrifty. Next, let's look at one of the rounds where Aproto was anchoring on B. You can see that Ghost is 4-stacked towards the A site, and Aproto is just scouting for information towards B link, with the trademark on B main giving information of any push from B main. TSM Academy is able to cross and get through double doors, and Aproto, it looks like, spots them out. He starts holding a more passive angle, but then at one point he decides to go for another jiggle peek and takes a shot and instantly gets taken out by the op. As the only player on the B side of the map, this instantly loses the round for Ghost, as it allows free access to the B bomb site and rotations exclusively through spawn and heaven. This is a pretty classic example of an overpeak. There is really no reason to go for this peak. It's just greedy, because the reward is maybe 1 kill before getting traded, and the risk is getting killed like Aproto did, and giving B-bomb side to the other team in a 5v4 retake. So the lesson that I would take from this round is, if you're anchoring alone, and the rest of your team is nowhere to be seen, don't go for peaks. You're playing for info, playing for your life, and playing for rotations, not for kills. Finally, this is a round that Ghost wins due to a gun advantage, but it's also a very long round, and we're going to see what happens with Aproto's util. An early push through Art and a split towards A main forces out the Art smoke, the A main smoke, and a Gravois. The attackers freeze, and then Chamber takes contact through A main again, forcing the last star popped as a smoke. Sonics then rotates towards B link, looking to convert into the B site. Aproto has absolutely no stars left for the push, and he's just a gun at this point. So we can see early split pushes towards Art and A is able to burn a ton of util quickly out of Astra. The util out of Astra is able to burn the clock down to 45-30 seconds, so Ghost definitely thinks that this is worth it. However, I think this is the main counterplay to Astra on Pearl, because there's so much ground to cover, you need to use a lot of your smokes early based on where pressure comes. This will leave a window later in the round where you might be able to hit a site with no stars left from Astra. Attack is a little harder to learn from individual plays from Aproto, since on the attack, the role of the Astra is pretty much just providing smokes for the team and using util, staying alive, flank watch, etc. But let's take a look at what Ghost is doing as a whole. While Ghost was not nearly as dominant on attack with a 61% win rate in the 4 maps, they still had a lot of success. Ghost almost always hit a site at the start of the round, with the exception of ecos, bonuses, and other weird economy buys. Ghost heavily emphasized the B bomb site, attacking there the majority of their rounds. Almost every round, Aproto would pull back a star at the top of B main to allow a teammate to cross and fight from the head glitch box. This would almost always be John QT on the Neon. You can see in this clip that the angle is really difficult to fight even with an operator zoom. John QT head glitches for info while the rest of the team stays back and is ready to swing off of his info. Once all the long angles are controlled, Brock throws Prowler to clear out Pillar and the close cubby, which is then followed by a knife which clears both back screen and back halls. 2 smokes are used on both spawn and heaven, and a relay bolt is thrown at the back side of halls to catch anyone either entering or leaving after the knife. A haunt is thrown in one of several locations that will reveal site and link, and the second Prowler usually buys space towards link. The plant is usually by this close default box, but if Ghost has full site control, it's usually planted as far out as possible that allows better angles for fighting from long. Ghost usually doesn't all fall back to long, and they fight for sight. They anchor 2 towards back halls, who are going to swing off the players that are playing towards long, and there's usually one player, either Koala or Aproto, who is either flank watching or on a flank themselves through B-Link. Sometimes, Ghost also takes control of A main early, but still ends up doing the same hit on B, just delayed. They'll regroup, throw the same util, and then hit. Ghost mainly only goes towards mid when they're at a gun disadvantage or other weird buy. They usually try to explore mid or do a mid split to A when they're on these weird buys, and by doing something towards mid, Link, or Art on these rounds, they give the impression that they're putting more emphasis towards mid than they actually are. In reality, the gun rounds are almost all just straight up hits towards usually B site and occasionally A. It looks like Ghost believes that the B bomb site is really exploitable. Indeed, Ghosts only seem to lose their B hits when the other team was either set up for a 5-man retake or held on to control of back halls. Ghosts constantly abused spamming screens, as every time a player tried to play there, they were spammed down. Ghosts also pauses before going onto site past the default box and will peek on site together at multiple different distances, so any defenders have to constantly face multiple targets who are fighting them simultaneously. When Ghost goes A, they leave Secret and the pit area open and clear it as a team, while Art and Flowers are usually smoked off. These A hits were somewhat rare and only came against teams who had more time to study Ghost's tendency to stack towards B. We're again going to take a look at a few rounds in more detail. This time we're going to look at a couple successful hits and then a couple times that Ghost did get shut down and what the other team was doing in order to stop them. So we're first going to look at one of the rounds where Ghost didn't play fast. So in this round, Ghost started out spread out, and they were looking to fake pressure towards both A and B. They use the same recalled Star and Prowler that they do in their B hit, but this time they have both Astra and Chamber towards the A side of the map. In response, Sonic sends a Prowler through Shop, and Astra pushes up off of it. Astra is able to confirm that there's no one on the B side of the map, and Sonic is able to rotate 4 members towards A site to get ready for the hit. Ghost loses 2 on the way in and is forced to save pretty much immediately. Because Sonic did something aggressive out of mid, when Ghost has pretty much been giving it up almost every single round, they are able to get information allowing a proper 4-man stack. Teal Team often took a very different approach where they would also control mid, but they would give B up for complete retake. With a Cypher and Chamber playing towards the B side of the map, B side is given up and the 2 Astra Stars are saved to retake site 5v3, essentially, because there's players still watching for a flank. Next, we're going to take a look at how powerful ultimate abilities from certain agents are able to shut down the B push on its own. TSM Academy plays a layered defense on this round with 3 players towards the B site. They have both Neon and Sky playing towards Pillar and Cubby to create the first layer of defense, and then they're able to fall back with the Neon wall and rely on the lockdown out of Killjoy. You can see that Ghost push gets completely stalled out, and they're forced to wait at top B. Aproto and Koala try to take control towards Link, but Koala gets shut down trying to go through sewers. Ghost is forced to go into a B hit, but already a man down. They do their normal B hit and are able to pick up the first kill spamming through screens yet again, but they trade out fairly evenly on site, and they're completely contained in mid and in spawn, and it leads to Aproto being left in a 1v2, which he's unable to win. One key note is that TSM Academy is heavily set up for the B hit here. They're predicting the B hit, and it requires 3 players and a lockdown. If the B bomb site is so difficult to defend that it requires a heavy stack, it's always going to leave openings elsewhere on the map. The A site only had a single anchor player, for example. Next, we're going to look at one of the A hits which was successful out of Ghost. This is a forced buy out of Ghost after losing the pistol versus TSM Academy. They contact up A main and surprise Harmful's Killjoy, getting the opening pick. They immediately burst onto site using smokes on Flowers and Art Link. Site is knifed, confirming no one on site. A relay bolt stops an initial push through the smoke, and then a Seize follows up to prevent Astra from coming out of the Art Link smoke once again. A Prowler follows after, creating absolutely no opportunity to play through the smoke on Art. Haunt is thrown that lands on the barrier that would scan into the dugout pit area, as well as back towards Secret, and John QT immediately pushes into Secret to try to take control of backside. Ghost is always trying to push through backside and control up to CT, so they only have to worry about Link and any flanks. TSM Academy tries to do their retake with 3 coming out of Art and 1 CT, but the Art players are stuck in a crossfire as they exit the choke, and the CT player gets cleaned up by Koala. Notice that Aproto is always playing back in a safe area, watching the flank, and he's playing for his Gravwell, which is the last line of defense if his teammates get cleaned up, and he needs to play time on the defuse. Let's summarize the whole video. On defense, Aproto always plays as a hard anchor for either A or B site, but leans heavily towards A. Aproto only rotates once the spike has been either spotted or tapped on the opposite side of the map, and he pops smokes for A main even when B main pressure is happening to deny lurk pressure. Aproto also places a star in Art almost every single round regardless of whether he's playing A or B. This star is popped as a smoke for his teammates if they need to fall back after poking towards mid from Art. This smoke creates a crossfire of 90 degrees between further down the A link area and the connector. Aproto almost never plays aggressive on defense, only doing it when he's at a gun disadvantage, and even then he does it with a teammate. He doesn't do it alone. The main counterplays to Astra on this map are slow play, where you poke towards mid and A and force out smokes on both Art and on A main, using stars very quickly in the round. However, a lot of the time, Astra is able to stall enough time just off of her util alone that it gets the round down to 45 or 30 seconds, which puts significant time pressure on the other team. On attack, we have to think more about what Ghost does as a team instead of Aproto on his own, because the utility is always used to support the team. Ghost leans heavily towards 4 or 5 man hits towards a site, usually towards B. When going B, Aproto will recall his star at top B to allow a teammate to cross, and then smoke heaven and spawn when the hit comes out. One of the 2 remaining stars is used as a Gravwell, host plant to suck anybody off of the defuse, and then the last star can be used however you want, either as a resmoke or a stun towards somewhere on site. When attacking A, use your smokes on A link and flowers, and then push with your team into the dugout pit area as well as secret and try to fight for CT control. This allows a crossfire and anyone trying to come out of A link and a much better hold overall of A site. Your main job as Astra is staying alive on attack so that you're alive for that post-plant utility and you have smokes for your team. Aproto usually plays either as a flank watch or goes for a late lurk through link when they're attacking B. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate any and all support I get.